Cool. So now we have drums. So in order to actually have those drums make any sound, we also need a MIDI track to assign. So within this Steven Slate drums and within Groove Agent and any others, there's usually something called grooves or something similar that has these kind of preloaded drum patterns. So I'm at 70 beats per minute. The closest thing they have to that here, I guess, would be this kind of rock 68 to 85. So I'm just going to find a verse pattern. The trick here is to just kind of find a beat that feels right for your song. And you'll know that better than anybody else. This swingy rock one actually is kind of more in the ballpark. Yeah, that'll be perfect. So when you find a groove, you just kind of drop it into the timeline. It's going to automatically play through there. Cool. So, and I threw it way out in the middle here. So now I've got that instrument track with MIDI data to feed it that I pulled out of the groove. So now I'm set. I can just hit play. And there we go. I've now got drums that I can play along with, and it took about 2 minutes. So that piece of MIDI is just 2 bars in length, so that's not going to be long enough for the song. So I'm going to copy and paste. And so when you've got this, there's a snap to grid setting in Cubase up here at the top. Some of the stuff at the top, I haven't really gone through it. There's a bunch of different tools that you can use. So the default is this select tool. So that's for grabbing stuff, moving it around, stretching things out. If you stretch this MIDI out, there's no other data beyond this initial spot. So there's really nothing further you can do with it. This range selection is similar, but it just allows you to select chunks of time. And there's certain specific uses for this. For example, if you want to delete a section of the song, you can use the range selector to grab every single channel, and then you hit shift and backspace, and it'll delete everything within that range. So that's good if you're kind of building a song and you need to chop it up and change or delete a section, or you want to take out a couple bars and shorten your intro or something, but not mess up any of the other stuff in the song further along. The draw function, that's you can sort of create regions with that. It's also good for writing automation, and again, all of these buttons up here, usually it's like the number keys on your keyboard. So 1 goes back to the selector, 2 goes to range. I don't think there is one for draw. Oh yeah, sorry. So they're not quite in order, but erase is what you would expect. Excuse me. The ones I use the most are probably the normal object selection and number 3, which is split. So that's how you cut out sections, and then I press 1, I'm back to my selector, I grab it and delete it. Glue is another one. So basically the opposite of cut. So if I want to glue that back together, you just click the 2 regions and they pop back together like that. Another one I use a lot is number 7, which is mute. So if you want to mute this section so that, there's nothing there because it's a blank MIDI region. But if you wanted to, if you're going through, say, a vocal track and you've got some bleed in between the sections, you might go in and really zoom in and click. So I've got this snap to grid on right now, which is really helpful if you want to make sure stuff is on time and you're only cutting things on time. But if you wanted to, say, go in and cut out, only certain spots, you'd turn that grid snap off. So, now these 2 little spots would play, but these ones would be muted. So again, this is MIDI data. These editing functions are the same for whether it's MIDI or audio. But if you're setting up a MIDI drum track like we're doing now, you're definitely going to want snap to grid on. So it's super easy to extend this drum loop. You just copy and paste it. to the next bar. So now I've got 2, now I've got 4, now I've got 8. And I know my song is about 4 minutes long, so I'm just going to copy and paste until when I click up here, this says about 4 minutes. It should be about 1 or 2 more copy and pastes. Yeah, we're up to 3:38. Cool. So now we have way more than we need. We're actually up to 5 minutes. So we now have a drum beat to play along to. So I'm just gonna grab a guitar and I'm gonna run through this song and show you guys how the recording works for a guitar. I'm just gonna do a DI guitar for this tutorial, but it's the same process for microphones. So if I actually, you know what I'll do? I'll record the guitar with this microphone as well. It probably won't sound great. This isn't really the perfect microphone for acoustic guitar recording, but at least then it's kind of a nice example. So one thing I got to do though first is I've got a DI box here and a mic cable plugged into channel 2, so I'm going to plug that in. You can hear some crackling there. And right now I've got it plugged into my bass, so I got to switch that to my guitar. So I'm actually going to mute that input while I make that switch, and that way it shouldn't be popping like that. And you can mute it on here too. Cool. All tuned up. So yeah, this is not the ideal microphone for acoustic guitar recording, but for demonstration purposes we'll use it. So you'll lose my my descriptions possibly a little bit during this process, but first I'm going to plug in the DI. Still popping a bit, even with the muted channel there. When I'm tracking, I need to make sure that, or when you're tracking, you need to make sure that loopback is turned off. And that's this loopback function on the interface is just something that I was using to record the video. So you should be hearing my voice through this microphone, and you should be hearing this guitar when I record it. But if I've got this loopback to play the Cubase audio out to the video recording, it kind of screws up my recorded tracks. So if you're recording tracks, make sure you've got loopback turned off. So I do right now. So now I'm going to take a pass at recording this guitar. I'm not going to record the full song. I'm just going to do the intro and a verse and a chorus, just for demonstration purposes here. So I've got these monitors turned on so that I can hear my guitar in my headphones. And I can hear that, and it does not sound laggy because we dropped that sample rate down. So now I'm going to take a pass at recording this. I'm going to do a little 8 count, 2 bars before it comes in, and then I'm going to jump onto the recording once muted my drums there. We don't want that. Here we go. Cool. So you just hit spacebar to stop recording. And always make sure you leave that last note to hang. So here we go. You probably couldn't hear the drums that I was listening to either. You just draw the volume of these up as well, using that selection tool and these little squares, you see. So that's the DI. And the mic, you can tell they sound pretty different. That's not too bad together. All right, so we've got our guitar parts recorded now. They're pretty much lined up. They sound pretty decent together. So this is what I meant to play on that first one. So using the snap to grid, you can chop it right at that start of the bar. I actually just want this piece, I think. So you can hit Shift to select both of them, and then paste it into the spot that. Boom. Mistake. All right. So now we got our guitar track. So I'm going to do a quick vocal track now on this too. Now to record vocals, I'm going to need to turn off that loopback function again. So bear with me a second. All right, cool. So you guys won't hear me, you won't hear this guitar that I'm hearing in the background. It'll just be sort of a weird a cappella sounding thing that I do here. So maybe we'll cut this section and jump it back with the vocal track recorded. So I'm going to record this vocal track, and then we'll jump back in a second and start playing with the mix. Okay, cool. So we've got our vocals and guitar recorded. Now we'll do some quick editing, squeeze in a bit of that for this tutorial. So I made some noise here at the start of this vocal track. I'm going to kill that. Delete. I think I want this intro to be a little bit shorter too. So I'm going to keep the first 2 bars. I'm going to cut it in half. So I'm going to keep those first 2 bars. Maybe even the first 4. So I want the vocals to come in right about there. So this is where we use that range select function that I showed you earlier. So we want to go from 7 to 11, delete these 4 bars. Make sure you select all the different tracks in the project, and then you hit Shift Backspace. Boom, that's gone. All right, so now that should sound pretty good. Yep, cool. So back to our normal selector. One other thing you want to do, so I've done some of these little edits and stuff. You want to crossfade those edits. So you just select and hit X, and that creates a little crossfade wherever those takes and edits occur, and that just helps prevent kind of weirdness, audio weirdness. So let's play it back from the vocals, and you can just kind of see how that sounds just completely raw. Alarm went off this morning, and I rolled on out of bed. I popped some pills for those chronic ills, the ones that live inside my head. So I'm just creating a little fade at the very end of the song as well. 'Cause I'm a wage slave, just a wage slave. March on out the front door to another rainy day. Hey, ain't got no time for the warm sunshine when you got that rent to pay. 'Cause you're a wage slave. Cool. So that's the basics of getting your audio actually recorded into Cubase. So from there, you'd get into mixing.